Joining me in the Toyota Solutions studio now is Sunitha Krishnan. Such an honor to have you here. She has spent the better part of a quarter century really fighting against sex trafficking and other type of trafficking in her country. And from what I've heard, you have actually rescued some 20,000 women and children. How often do you get to meet the women and the children that you've saved?
Practically every day, because I rescue close to 60 girls a month. So it's not very uncommon for me to meet my children and my women every day, especially the new ones who are coming. But of late, it has become a little more difficult to get into the shelters. There have been very unique kind of attacks now engineered on us. And we have a situation where traffickers are posing as victims and entering the shelter.
That's a new phenomenon.
That's a new phenomenon.
Are they women traffickers?
Women traffickers, and it's kind of something that's happening in the last 3-4 years. And we don't know when to expect an attack. So we don't know who in the shelter is a trafficker sometimes. So the last attack was on February 21st this year, and 6 of them were caught because they engineered the attack from inside and they destroyed my shelter, and they gave me a loss of nearly $25,000. 2 of my staff were grievously stabbed.
Oh my gosh.
This one staff of mine has 26 stitches in her stomach because they just broke a glass piece and stabbed her inside the stomach. So after that, my people have kind of banned me from entering the shelter, because when these women were caught and they were put in the jail, when the police questioned them, they did speak about 6 more women. And those 6 others are still inside my shelter. And my colleagues suspect that they are waiting for me, and there could be a possible attack on my life. And therefore, to keep my children and my women at peace, I haven't entered my shelter for the last 2 months.
What keeps you from giving up? I mean, you're talking about a threat to your life now, potentially. You're clearly a target for people that are making a lot of money off of these activities. What keeps you going?
I've been attacked more than 17 times. I've lost my ear. I'm deaf by 1 ear, and I have too many damages on my body. But every time you look at one of your children, the hope in their eyes, and the fact they trust me. Children who have been raped 1,000 times, children who have been betrayed by the world, children who have actually no reason to trust anybody, have the magnanimity of the spirit, generosity of their spirit to forgive and trust me. I think that trust keeps me going, because the fact that if they can not be cynical in the face of such reality, that I jolly well will not be cynical too.
Children are amazing. Absolutely. I think that way. As a journalist, I've seen dark corners of the world as well, although I haven't devoted my life to the depths of it the way you have. But you know, when you look at your child, that optimism keeps you going. How else has your work changed you in positive ways?
See, I'm a person who is positive in the most negative space. I think one of my greatest transformative moments was my gang rape. That's the world vision I come from. I have been blessed to convert every adversity in my life as an opportunity. So to me, positivity is not such a big deal, because that's me. What drives me, of course, other than my children's faces, is my anger. Again, for many, it could be very negative force, but for me, it's a very positive thing. Because it's this anger that continues to push me to show the world that it's not impossible to wipe them out. It's not impossible to put a dent in their lives. And you just have to look at me to understand that. Meaning, if you see me, if I can stand up and show you it's too high a chair, I don't want to stand up. Then I wouldn't be able to get up on the seat again.
I'd hold your hand.
Yeah, but then I'm just 4 feet 6 inches.
Yeah.
Now, if I, as a person who's just 4 feet 6 inches, can do what I'm doing, I'm sure the entire world who's taller than me, 5 feet and above, they can do a lot more things. Yeah.
So much of what we've been talking about here, I've spoken to a lot of technology leaders and business leaders, is scalability. And your organization, Prajwala, which is a non-governmental organization, clearly you stand up shelters, you rescue, you rehabilitate, and you reintegrate rescued victims back into society. How do you keep that going and expand that? And do you have plans for how to do that so that it doesn't end with you?
Definitely it's not going to end with me. Today I've, after doing what I'm doing for 25 years now, I have thousands of warriors who will continue much beyond me. But I look at Prajwala just as a laboratory. I don't look at it as a kind of a permanent thing that I want to sustain, you know. In fact, my biggest mission and my dream would be to close down Prajwala.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
to not need it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But then that apart, one of my work in the last few years has been to replicate the possibilities that we have demonstrated. Like we have shown to the world that rehabilitation is possible. We have shown to the world that you can make a dent in the organized criminal syndicate. We have shown it to the world that it is possible to rattle them. And that's why we are attacked so many times. Because
do you have the support of the government and local governments and police and security forces, Prajwala?
To a large extent, yes and no. Today we are in a point in history when people cannot ignore us. And therefore we are like this poison that you can't spit out or you can't swallow. We're there, just there.
Yeah.
So in the face of it, everybody supports us. But in reality, who supports us? I'm very, very doubtful. Every time we are attacked, there's nobody standing by with us. We take the brunt of it.
And you think things have gotten worse in recent years?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's happening culturally or economically that's creating this
I think
issue?
One of the major factors that has, accelerated the crime is technology. Technology has been one driving force that has changed the face of the crime. Now the crime is more faceless, borderless, genderless, and it can touch anybody. So your daughter is as vulnerable as my daughter.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to people in the online trafficking space and how technology may be able to actually crack that as well, but it's a huge problem.
At this moment, technology is the one which is kind of spotting it, you know. And what is very frightening for a person like me is that while people like me are constantly sensitizing the world about this problem, the traffickers out there are far ahead of us. You know, their world is
manipulate the technology to
they've gone so ahead, and we are still saying A, B, and C of the crime.
Right.
We don't even know. You know, like many countries don't even have a legislation in place. Most of the countries are still grappling on how to go about doing this.
Yeah.
Whereas hundreds are already damaged, are caught in those slavery-like conditions. So I think what we need now is a world to, you know, take a stand now, this minute, and say no, you know.
On a global scale.
On a global scale, and say, you know, this is something that we will be 100% zero tolerant to.
It sounds like you are never going to stop fighting, Sunitha, and that in and of itself is an inspiration, but the thousands of lives you saved, it's extraordinary.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us in the Toyota Solutions Studio. Thank you.
Thank you.